So first we will initialize the Spring Boot project. To start with the Spring Boot project, here we have open start.spring.io. So here we can create a skeleton project for the Spring Boot. I'm using Java language, Maven, and the Spring Boot which I have choose 3.4.3. And let's give here the group name, artifact medicart APIs. Okay, and packaging we need jar and 17 version, the JDK. And let's here add the dependencies that we required. Okay, so the dependencies that we need. So first we need Spring Web and Spring Security. Spring Security we'll use to secure our APIs. Then we need MongoDB data, Spring Data MongoDB, and we need Lombok. We need WebSocket. Okay, so these are the dependencies that we have added now, but later if we need any other dependencies we will add it. And let's click on generate button to generate this project. Let's open this in our IntelliJ IDE. Okay, so here I have opened the Medicart backend project in a IntelliJ IDEA. So here we first will do few things like to set up the configuration file to build this project and also to run this project in a local. So for that we need to go on the top, and here you will see a current file, and here we need to do edit configuration. And in the edit configuration, press on add new. Because we are using Maven build tool, so we'll use Maven, and let's give it clean install. Also let's mark it skip test true. Here so the JDK 17 Java 17 we are using, so let's have that Java 17 in your machine. If you want to download the JDK, you can go to file, project structure, and in the project structure you can download the SDK. So here I have already Java 17. If you want, you can add in your machine from here. Okay, so once you have that configuration, let's create it. Clean install, apply. Okay, okay, so the build has successful. And now to run this project, let's create one more configuration file. The same we will, so here we'll create it, add new configuration, and let's choose it application, and we'll give it medicart name. Let's select it the main file, the main Java file, and also we will choose add VM options to pass VM options as true, and let's click on apply. Okay, and let's run it. Okay, so here our application is running on port 8080. Let's verify. If we'll go localhost 8080, so because we have added Spring Security, we can see the login screen. Okay, so the application is running fine. Okay, so before starting with creating the APIs, we will first discuss the schema and the design of the backend application that we are going to build. So to start with the backend APIs, first let's discuss the functional requirements that we are going to add. So I just added few high level points like what we are going to build in the backend. The first is we will cover the authentication. So in the authentication we'll cover on the both side, like for on the front end React Native. So in the React Native we will integrate that with Firebase and the Google sign-in. Also we'll take care of the APIs on the backend with Spring Boot. These are just the few roles that we are going to take care on our database on the backend. And let's say when we come about the doctor search, so the users can do various operations in the application, right? So when we talk about doctor search, users should be able to search the doctor by name or specialty. user can able to view the doctor details, right? And also user can check the doctor's availability when we book an appointment. So these are some of the functional requirements that I just have listed down here. So when we will progress on writing the APIs, this will help us, to design the APIs. And when we come to booking appointment, so these are just some basics tasks that user or patient can perform in the application. These are two APIs that I've listed here, but we will add more APIs if we need it. Okay, so let's first structure the project. So I'm going to add few folders that we require. So these are few folders that we need in the project. So I'm going to first adding here the models. Like the models are basically the entities or the documents in MongoDB that we need to store the data. Like the first class that we need appointment. Okay, and here I'll just annotate this as a data. Uh, because we are using Lombok, so it will take care adding all that constructor and getter and setter. Okay, now here we give it no our constructor, all our constructor, builder, and document. So in the document we'll give it collection equal to appointments. Okay, so here for the appointment will be have ID, and this will be a string. So for the appointment we need start and end time. So for that we will give here private local date time. Also we will create the status for the appointment. So for that let's have here appointment status. This will be basically an enum. We'll just create it here, appointment status enum. Okay, and the status would be like scheduled, cancelled. Okay, these states basically like scheduled. These are the status that we will keep in the appointment status. Now in the appointment we need to define the relationship with few other model, like the doctor, for which doctor we have this book the appointment, and the user who has booked this appointment, and the patient information. Okay, so for that, like I'm going to add few more models here. Like we need doctor. So for the user, let's first define the user document, the user collection. Let's give it here users. Now for the users, we need, of course, we need ID, a unique ID. Here we can, if you want, you can give it first name and last name. And this is just for we are making it we are doing the just for practice. So I'm giving it simple private string name. Instead patient, let's give it here user, because in our application we are not login with the password, so it is just the phone number and email. So for that, here we are not keeping that password field. Okay, now here doctor, let's add same here, doctors. So the same we need doctor ID, name, email. We need specialty, so let's have here one more class, and we'll give this name specialties. Yep, and in the for the specialties we need ID. And to define the relationship between these two model or the collection, so in the MongoDB, in the here in the model we'll use an annotation db ref to define the relationship between the two entities, between two collection, the doctor and specialty. Okay, so if we see in the doctor, we need have ID, name, specialty, phone, email. Let's have here private string phone. Then we need created at, updated at, image, rating, fee, and user. Okay, so this will be basically belongs to user. Then we need here image. Let's have few more fields here, rating and the consultation fee. Also here we will create the time slots. For the time slots, let's here have the class time slot, and let's give this the, and here let's give this as data. Okay, and the doctor will be have a list of time slots, so let's give it here time slot. In the time slots, uh, here we will define private string id, private day of week, and private local date time, start time, local date time, end time. If the doctor is not available on that slot, later, like we can make it true, false. We can make it, it can be used. Let's this to label slots. So this is the doctor model, and let's make few changes in the appointment. So here we'll give dbref private user, the user who has booked the appointment, and dbref doctor, the doctor to with the doctor with whom we have booked this appointment collection. So this is the appointment model. Okay, so in the patients, let have this as a model, and also we will use it as collection patients. And now here, so why we do need patient collection? Because we need to keep track all the information about patient somewhere in the db. We can fetch the information from this patient collection. So here let's have private string id, the private string name, private string phone number, private string email. Also we need to pass the user, the user which is belong to this patient record. So let's give it here user and user. Also we'll annotate this as a dbref at dbref. Okay, so this is the patient collection, the patient document and doctor, and also we have added appointment, specialty. Okay. And now let's create a controller. So I'm going to add all the classes, the controllers that we need in this application. Like we need doctor controller, Okay, so first now let's implement the Docker controller. We will give here REST controller and request mapping. So let's here define the methods, the request methods that we need to create in the Docker controller. So first I'm giving get mapping public list. Also here we need a package DTO. So let's create that package DTO. In DTO we will add Docker DTO appointment DTO. Okay, and in this Docker controller, let's give it list of Docker DTO, get doctors. Here will here we will define the services. Let's have that service doctor service, and let's annotate this as a service doctor. Here we will return the doctor list, get all doctors, and in repository let's have an interface doctor repository. Extends Mongo repository doctor model, and string is the primary key. Okay, and here in doctor service let's auto wide the repository private doctor repository. Here we will get list of doctors. Also we can add pagination here. For now I'm just returning the list of doctors, find all, and here we'll do return doctors dot stream dot map dot collectors. Okay, and here we'll return doctor DTO, will return doctor DTO at data at at no constructor full constructor, and at builder. And the fields that we needed, let's copy that from the this doctor. Yeah, we need this all. So here we'll just return the user ID, and also here we will just return specialty ID, and here image rating fee and available slots. Okay, so in the doctor here doctor DTO dot builder dot email doctor dot get email name doctor dot get name ID doctor dot get ID. So here I'll basically map all that fields. So this is the mapping that we did. And in the doctor entity, so in the doctor model also we will add here at not null, so this cannot be null, and also specialty. Okay, this cannot be null. In the doctor controller let's here call that Here we will just auto write doctor service. Here we'll return doctor service dot get all doctors. Okay, here let's add a few more methods, like create the doctor or update doctor and delete. So here we'll create doctor dto create doctor. So here we'll simply return doctor. Here we do return doctor repository dot save doctor. Okay, and here let's have other methods. Let's here have public list public doctor get doctor by id string doctor id, and here we return doctor repository dot find by id, or else throw new resource. Here will basically throw an exception, resource not found exception. And here let's have that mapping functions, post mapping public doctor create doctor return new response entity doctor service dot create doctor. Let's pass it doctor here, http status dot created. Okay, and this is the post mapping. Here we have get mapping. Also let's have here get doctor by id, add path variable string id, and here we'll call doctor service dot get doctor by id. Here we'll change this to doctor dto. We'll map this to this object. Okay, so this is the doctor controller. Let's have here one more controller, specialty controller. In this controller we will keep only one method to get all these specialties, and we will load the data in the db. So let's have here specialties, and let's have it here get mapping public list of specialty get all. Specialty service at service, and in repost let's give this as repository. specialty and string. Okay, this is the specialty repository, and now at here we'll call that service get all. Let's auto write the repository here, specialty repository, and here we return specialty repository dot find all. Okay, and in this specialty controller here we'll call return specialty service dot get all. Okay, these are two controllers that we created, doctor and specialty. And also let's also we will implement this appointment controller. Before that, let's set up the Mongo. First, let's set up the MongoDB. For the MongoDB, here I'm going to use MongoDB Atlas. If you not have an account in MongoDB Atlas, you can create it. It's free to it is totally free. And let's here sign in. Okay, so when you will log in with when you sign in Atlas, you will be able to find the option to create a cluster. And when you set up the cluster, you will get an uh, cluster here like this. And we have to click on connect, and in the connect it will give us a different option like how we want to connect to the MongoDB. We can use driver. If you want to use Mongo Compass, you can use Mongo Compass. Here you will get it the string basically. So here in the resources, let me change this to YAML spring.data.mongodb URI. The value of these variables I will pass it through VM arguments, and the DB name is Medicart. Okay, now here in the configuration we need to pass the VM argument. So let's add here VM argument. I need to pass MongoDB user, Mongo user, and Mongo password. So if you face any issue with the Lombok, just make sure you just have added this configuration in your pom.xml, and after that clean the project and rebuild it, then start the application, then it will work. Okay, so our application has started. So here let's add a security config here, web security config. First we will bypass the security, and to just check it, our APIs do enable web security and add configuration. Okay, now here we will create a bean public security filter chain, and let's have here HTTP security. Okay, so here we will give HTTP dot authorize HTTP request, and let's give it here authorize authorize dot request matches. For now, simply let's just permit it all. Permit all. Any request dot authenticated, and here we do return HTTP dot build. Okay, let's add the exception handler. So now let's restart the application. Okay, now we'll open Postman API specialties. Okay, it is giving an empty data. That means APIs are working. And here let's have API doctors. This is giving some issue because these have some data. Let's remove this. Okay, this is also giving an empty array. So the APIs are working. Now we will feed some data in the backend. So next, let's add few classes for the authentication. So in the web security config, we already have here bean, which we are basically allowing all the requests. Now we are going to implement the JWT authentication. Basically, we will log in with the Google from the mobile, and then we'll create the JWT token. Also, we will store the details of the user in the user collection, and then we will that generate that JWT token we will be use in the APIs to call the doctor controller and other APIs. And that token we will use to fetch the data through other APIs like doctor API, Hora, specialty, and also to create appointment. So I'm going to add here few classes. Okay, so here I have added two more classes for the JWT authentication filter and JWT token helper. If you want to learn in detail how to implement JWT authentication and about Spring Security, you will find the link in the description of this video where you can check out this complete detail how we can implement the authentication, JWT token, Google sign in, and the username password authentication in Spring Boot. So in the application.yaml, I've added few more properties that we need, like for the JWT secret key and the expire time that will be used as a dynamic variables in the runtime arguments. Okay, so here I've added few more things like just change this method. So here we basically allow the Swagger URLs and other request will be authenticate, and here we'll basically adding the filter before the JWT authentication filter, which we will check if this if every request has a valid token. So here let's add here session management. Those session create policy. So here we will set the session create policy stateless session. Okay, for the user detail service, we'll create a class here, custom user detail service, and let's implement this user detail service. In the user detail service, we have load a user by username, and basically let's have here one repository interface user detail repository, and let's extend this Mongo repository user model, and let's annotate this as repository. Okay, so now this user details repository we'll use at here. Let's auto wide user detail repository. So in this user load by username, load user by username. So here we will check user equal to user detail repository dot find by email. So let's go to here. We have user, yeah, email, user, find by email, string email. So this will be our method find by email, and we will use this method at here, find by email, username. If null, if null is equal to user, here we'll throw exception, throw new, username not found exception, user not found with username. Okay, and here we'll return the user. So this is our user detail service, custom user detail service. Now we'll use this custom user detail service at here. So let's auto void private user detail service. Now we are basically using the interface. So using that, uh, we'll be able to access the instance, because we have implemented that in the custom user detail service. We the entity that we have created, we need to implement it with user details. So let's do that here. We'll basically implement user details, and these are few methods that we need to implement. Okay, here we have to return the roles. So let's cast this to the guaranteed authority, list of roles. Password, okay, the password, we are not using the password field, so it will be blank. Custom user detail service, now here we're returning that user. Okay, so now in the web security configure, we have implemented this method. We have added the add filter before. Now we have here jot token helper and jot authentication filter. We have to generate the jot token. Before that, we will implement the Google sign in the mobile app. So let's do that. Okay, so let's do the Google sign in first. Now to integrate the Google sign in and the Firebase with the application, first we have to install few dependencies. So let me clear the terminal, and here let's add the dependencies that we need. Let's hit enter. Okay, so the dependencies has been added. Okay, now before setting up the code, first we need to go to console, and here we will create a project on Firebase. So go to the console. You will see an option to create the project. I already have set up a project, Medicart, but if you want, you can set up your project. It is straightforward. You have to give the name and click on continue, and then it will give you choose a plan. You can create your project free of cost. So let's click on the Medicart. So for this project, it is an empty project. I have not configured anything. So let's go to the authentication, and here we'll do get started. So we need to first, okay, so we need Google sign in. Let's click on Google, and we need to enable it. Okay, the Google sign in has been enabled in your project. Now we need to go to project setting, and here it will give you your apps, the apps that you have configured with this project. So for currently I have not configured anything, so let's click on iOS. Here we need a bundle ID. Now this bundle ID, you can get it either from like your some package class or manifest file. So this is the package for the project. This is the bundle ID that you can use it at here, Apple bundle ID. And now we can give any name, like I am giving Medicard, and register an app. So when you registered the app, it will give you an option to download the Google service info list file. Download it, and we have to add this file into our project. Okay, so here we have to uh, here we need to add that file. So let's go to the download folder and Google. Yeah, this is the file. Let's add it and click finish. Okay, so the file has been added. Okay, so now we have added the Google services file in the iOS directory. First we are doing the setup for iOS, and then we will do for Android. And here let's do pod install. Okay, here we are getting few issues with the pods. For this we need to update our pod file. Okay, here I have added the dependencies that we need in the pod file. You can find the pod file in iOS directory. And now let's hit pod install. Okay, pod installation is completed. Now we will start the application. So for that, let's run npm run iOS. The simulator that I will choose 16. You can choose any simulator. It is also, we need to add here one more entry. So we need here in the info list file, we have to add cf bundler, basically the URL types. So for that, let me add here. Okay, here we need URL types, cf bundler cf bundler URL types, and this needs to be a string. And here you have to give the client ID. So here you have to give the reversed client ID. Reverse client ID you will be able to find in the Google services file. So I'm just giving here the reversed client ID. Let's do pod install. Okay, in the pod file we need to add one more line, use frameworks link is static. And now here let's do again pod install rep update. Okay, now let's start the application. The build is successful, and now let's go to get started. Now here we have continue with Google button. Let's go back to the components, the screen, login screen. So now this button we will put it in a separate component. So let's here create a new file, Google sign in. And at here we will call Google sign in component. So now this is the Google sign in component. Now when we will click on this button, let's give here on press. Here let's have method constant sign in with Google. Sign in with Google. Okay, so before calling that Google sign in API, here let's configure the client ID. So for that Google sign in, we will import the Google sign in. Google sign in, we can import it from the package React at React Native Google sign in. Google sign in. Let's give this component Google. Okay, so this is Google sign in dot configure. Here we have to pass two client ID, iOS client ID and web client ID. This client ID you can get it from the Google services file that we have put it in the iOS directory. So for this, we can create one environment file dot environment. We will put it all that in environment id. Okay, so this is the Google sign in configure. We have given that, basically we have given this in the client IDs. Let's reload the application. Okay, now here on sign in with Google, let's add here try catch. So first let's give it here with Google sign in dot has Google sign in dot has play services. Okay, let's change this to, now we'll call constant response wait Google sign in dot sign in. Okay, here we'll get the response, either it will success or failed. So that response we will get it in the response, and here we can check if is a success response. Here we'll call API, call our backend API to register or sign in. So let's click on continue with Google. So here let's do continue. Okay, let's go do continue. Okay, let's open the developer tool because we have not opened developer tool. Okay, now we will do again continue with Google. Let's sign in, continue, and yeah, we got success response. Okay, so here this is how we will do the sign in with Google. As far this is the setup how we can integrate the Google sign in iOS. Now we will do the for the Android also. Okay, so to do this for Android, we need to add few changes in the Gradle file. So for that, let's go to Android build.gradle, and here we have to add class path. This class path basically we have to add. Okay, this is the documentation for Google sign in with React Native. And here let's go to setting up the Android setup guide, and this is the class path. This is in the Android build.gradle file at the project level Gradle file, and at here in the app level we have to add this plugin. Okay, now let's build the project. Npm run Android. Services.json is missing. So this is something that we need to configure it, like how we can obtain the configuration file. So let's go back to the console in the Firebase. Okay, and at here let's reload it. Authentication. Let's go to project setting. In the project setting we have added for iOS the app. Let's add for the Android too, and let's choose is Android. Here we'll give the package. The package, let's copy the package from any Java class. Medicart register app. Okay, so this is the file. Let's download it. Okay, so we have to add this Google services file in the app. Let's go back here. Services in the app. We didn't find it. So we have added that Google services file in the app. Yeah, this is the file that we have added. Now let's rebuild the project. Okay, so here I have set up the Google's account in this device. Now when we'll do continue with Google, it will give the option to select the account, and let's click hit it, and let's choose the account. Okay, so here we are getting the developer error. Let's give this client ID for here in the unknown environment. Okay, here we have updated the client ID. Now the next step that we have to do is here we have to add the fingerprint. So this fingerprint we can do in the here. Let's open the terminal, cd android, and here we need to run gradle w sign in report. Here we will get it the fingerprint, the debug and release one. Let's copy the debug, and here we will put it and SHA256. Okay, so now let's rebuild the project. Okay, build is completed. Now let's go back to emulator. Let's go get started. Continue with Google. Okay, yeah, here we are getting success response now. Okay, so the Google sign-in is working for both Android and iOS. Now let's just do one more thing because we are in Android emulator. Let's navigate to the home screen. So to do that, let's go back to login screen. Just copy this. Okay, so this is the home screen. So yeah, this is working in Android too. We have validated both in Android and iOS. So now we are switching back to the iOS device. Now we will see first the flow, how the authentication will work. Okay, so this is the basic flow diagram of authentication. On the mobile app, we'll do first Google sign in. When will do Google sign in, we'll get the ID token and user details. That ID token will pass to the backend, and on backend, we'll validate that ID token, and also we'll check if that user is exist in DB. If the user is exist, we'll just generate the job token and send it back to the mobile app. If the user not exist, we will create an entry for that user and then generate a token and send it back to the mobile app, and then client will use that JWT token for other requests. Okay, so let's here we have to add one controller. Let's give it here auth controller. Also we need one dependency. Okay, so here we have added this dependency. Now let's go back. Okay, now let's here in the application YAML we will add Google, this client ID, basically client. Okay, now in the auth controller, let's give this as REST controller. Request mapping API auth, and here we'll use that Google client ID, private string client ID. at value google dot client dot id. Here let's do post mapping, and here let's give it Google, the provider. Okay, now here let's do try catch. Also for this, let's give it request body map of basically a map string. Let's id token. So let's extract the token from the request dot get id token. Now we'll create a object here google id token verifier equal to new google id token verifier. Let's just give it builder new net http transport. Okay, let's use this JSON factory here. And here I will call that google id. Here we'll do generate google id token one. Basically we will validate that. So verifier dot verify id token. So if id token 1 is not equal to null, that means the token is valid. Okay, then we will extract the details, otherwise we will return here return new response entity bad request dot body invalid request. Also if we get an exception, here we'll return a response entity dot status response entity dot internal server error dot body something went wrong. Okay, and here we will call dot payload equal to id token 1 dot get payload. Okay, and here we'll check if not payload dot get audience dot equals client id. Then here we will return the bad exception, the bad response. So here we will return the bad response, the invalid audience, and otherwise let's get it the email equal to payload dot get email, and name payload dot get email. Okay, so and here we'll call user details and let's auto-wide the user details here. Private user detail service. Here we'll provide user detail service, and user detail service dot load username with email. If use if null. Okay, at here in the custom user detail service, let's add here public user get user by email, string email, return user detail repository dot find by email and email. Okay, and at here in the auth controller we'll call custom user detail service dot get user by email. Null is not equal to user did this will return user. If null is not equal to user dot get username or email dot equals email. Here we will create a JWT token and return it. Create JWT token and return it. Else here we will register new user. For registering the new user, let's go back to custom user details service. Here we'll call public user create user. Okay, here we'll give it map string user and the payload. So the payload would be Google ID token dot payload, and here we will check the email payload dot get email name payload get name user role dot user, and here we will do return user detail repository dot save user, generate token with an email, and then here we will return new response entity dot okay dot body. In the body we will return it the token. So let's have here map string map equal to new hash map dot put token. So here let's create a DTO, a class basic, a class auth response, and here let's give it data auth response dot builder dot token, and let's pass the token here dot build. Okay, and here we will call that user user details service dot create user, and let's pass the request and payload. Okay, so once we get it the response here, we will return a response. This we need to add this Google client ID and JWT key. So let's add it. Okay, here we have to give this. Now let's start the application. Now in the application, uh, let's create one function here in the API folder. Let's give it file name auth.js. So here in the API path, we will give a auth login Google, and here let's call this URLs post and headers. Here headers not required. Uh, mhm, response, and here we will return response dot data, and here we will call authenticate response dot data dot then response error, and once we will get it the response, here we'll navigate to the tab navigator. Okay, so let's start this. Also we'll build the iOS app again. Okay, here we need to allow that request route and matches, request matches API auth dot permit all. Okay, let's restart it. Here we need to change this to object, because in the data that we will send it to this request, that can also an array, and it cannot be deserialized, so this will throw an issue. So at here in the create user, let's also get the email. Also let's get the photo. Here we do image. Okay, so in the user, let's give here private string image. Now let's continue with Google. Okay, here we got the request, and this is ID token. Also we got the payload. In the payload we will get all the values. Okay, so in the payload we will get in the picture. mm, and okay, so here we just need to make one change this to picture. Let's restart it. So here I change this to picture because we'll get the picture in the payload. Okay, so here we got the response, and in the response in the data token we got this token. Okay, so now once we get this token, we can fetch the we will store that token, and then that token we can use it in the other requests. Okay, so the authentication is working. Now also let's go back to the our MongoDB, and here in the users, yeah, here we have registered that user. In the roles we have user role. Okay, so this is the authentication, and also we have connected with the we connected the backend API. Now we will feed some data for the doctors. Okay, so the request that we will hit to the backend for the auth login, this will give us the uh, token. That token we can use it to fetch the data. Like here, the specialities controller. If we don't pass this controller, it will give us 403 forbidden. So for that, we need to pass the authentication token, the barrier token, and also to get the doctors list. If we call this will give us the 403 forbidden, and if we'll use that along with this token, then we will get the result 200. Okay, so specialties, we I already added few specialties in the DB. So these are the specialties data, and now in the doctors we'll add few doctors. So let's go back, and in the doctor, like here we have first name. Okay, let's go back and we'll check the doctor. Here we need name, the doctor collection, the doctor model, name, email, specialty. So let's change this to name, and we'll put it name here. So the doctor, uh, in the start time, here let's store it the string. So it has created the doctor. Mhm. We'll call the doctor API. Let's go back here, and okay, and at here, because we are not passing the uh, okay, so here we are getting this data, but most probably this request is failing because we are not passing the headers, the authorization header. So let's check it again here. To store the JWT token, we will use a we can store it in a local storage, but that will not be a good option. So we'll use the React Native keychain. So let's add one package npm install React Native keychain. Okay, and once we get it, that token, Google sign in at here. Okay, and in the keychain here, response dot token. And this token, so let's here will okay, and here let's change this to okay. So here something is wrong. Let's call this get headers. Okay, the get headers will be simply return. So yeah, now here we are getting that headers. Because we need to add the weight, this will return an promise. Okay, so now here once we get the data, so the doctors, where we are fetching doctors, let's go here, fetch doctors. Okay, so we are getting the response, the doctor. And now when we will click on it, it will still give us an error, and the doctor by an ID. So let's try this doctor by ID if we are getting response or not. Open in, let's duplicate this. Yeah. Okay, so get by ID. Now let's go back here. The doctor list, when we will click on, we are going to the, okay, when we will click on the doctor card, this basically land to doctor details. Now in the doctor details screen, this is doctor by ID, and fetch doctor by ID. Let's use this. Okay, so here we are getting the response, fetch doctor by ID. Now we'll do book an appointment. When we will click do book an appointment, so for example here I'm just giving random details to, okay, so now here when we will selected the date and time, set appointment, and okay at here, so now the change that we need to make is we have to call the book appointment API. Now we'll create the book appointment API, and then we will send that data to the appointment API.